everybody, welcome to the Daily Dose. Do any of you remember a few years ago when a book that talked about the blue zones of the world came out? Maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't, but it was some researchers who were trying to figure out why certain people lived longer, seemingly healthier lives in certain parts of the world. The book was written by Dan Buettner, and it was called The Blue Zones: Lessons for Living Longer from People Who've Lived the Longest. And I asked for this book for Christmas a while back, and I thought it was so fascinating. These researchers chose to look at these places to try and gain some insight as to why people lived a really long time, specifically why they were living over 100 years old. And the researchers mapped out these common things that people had, that they shared in common in these different regions of the world. And I read the book, I checked out the Blue Zones cookbook because I wanted to just learn a little bit more about it. And I honestly can't remember all of the reasons why they call them blue zones, but it was really interesting. And nonetheless, I was really into this for a while. So then a few years ago, I signed up for email updates from this organization, the Blue Zone organization. Now, if you're like me, sometimes I sign up for emails from these places. Maybe it's from a site telling me how I can be healthier in some way. And I get these emails, and I probably read them 50% of the time. And even when I do read them, I take the tips even a smaller percentage of the time. I might say, okay, yeah, it's a great idea for me to eat a vegetarian meal that lowers my cholesterol. Maybe I'll try it sometime. Or it's a good idea for me to plant different things in my yard that repel insects naturally. I think about it, but I don't actually do it. Maybe sometimes I really hope to follow these steps. Anybody else out there like me? I have really good intentions. Well, anyway, I haven't unsubscribed from this email yet. And last week I got an email from this Blue Zone organization, and it had an article that was titled 8 Blue Zone Lessons for Slowing Down. And it kind of piqued my interest. So I clicked on it, and the article started like this. Every year, a new technology provides us a way to make our lives more efficient, yet somehow our lives just keep getting busier and busier. Imagine life in 1993. If you wanted to send a message to a friend, you had to write it by hand, put it in an envelope, and wait for 3 days for the post office to deliver it. If you wanted to know what was playing at a local theater, you had to go and buy a newspaper. And if you wanted to know who the 13th king of Spain was, or more, about the mating habits of Tasmanian marsupials, you actually had to go to the library. Despite all of the electronic conveniences that should theoretically make more time available for coffee with a friend, reading a book, or relaxing, it seems we just keep getting busier and more stressed. It seems that every waking moment is scheduled with work or kids or social obligations or chores, and our electronics ramp up the urgency, piping us with reminders. I read the first 2 paragraphs of this article and I thought, wow, that resonates with me. There's something there that I am convicted by. And this article, it had some suggestions for taking a step back and, according to the Blue Zone research, slowing down. But you should know that the Bible actually has something to say to us, something to ground us a little bit, something to help us step back, something that's called the Sabbath. This week on the Daily Dose, we are talking about first things first. It's back to school week for many of the students in this area. And when you think about the first things that kids learn in kindergarten, you might think about learning their alphabet, learning how to stand in line, learning how to play nicely with kids on the playground. But what comes first for adults? Often we talk about first you need to get a good career. First you need to make the most money. You need to be successful. But we want to suggest this week that actually God has invited us to look at some other things first. So this week, today, I actually want you to think about this word Sabbath. What is a Sabbath? Well, the Bible calls this a day of rest. And in the book of Genesis, God creates the world. God creates the darkness and the light, the birds and the animals. And by the end, on the 7th day, God rests. We hear that God finishes the work that God had done and rested on the 7th day from all the work. So God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it because on it God rested. We talk about this as Sabbath. Or maybe you've heard the 10 Commandments listed and you've heard, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Sabbath, to many Jewish people, is a period of 24 hours of rest, of stepping away from responsibilities, of things that often tie us down, from things that pull us away from our family, from our priorities, from God, of truly resting. What might a Sabbath look like for you? Maybe you're thinking 24 hours seems ridiculous. I can't imagine that. But think about it. What could you do for an evening to step away, to unplug your phone, to turn off those notifications so you don't get a ping on your voicemail in the middle of the night? What could an evening, an afternoon, a day of Sabbath look like for you? God invites you to Sabbath. We encourage you to consider what that looks like, because as we're reminded, Jesus says to all of us, "Come to me, all of you that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." Thank you so much for watching the Daily Dose today. We'd love for you to catch up on old Daily Doses. You can watch those anytime on our YouTube channel. And if you're watching on cable, invite a friend to watch with you. Have a great day, everybody.